Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get your attention, please. Folks, this is the Judiciary Committee. We are about to get started. We've got several bills that I have been asked to carry over, and that's fine. We're certainly always willing to do that. We have House Bill 37, which deals with attempting to elude, that they've asked me to carry over. House Bill 51, dealing with assaults, that they've asked to carry over and harassing communication. 54, dealing with incarcerated women, that they've asked me to carry over. And 7 terrorist threats that they've asked me to carry over. So those 4 bills will be carried over. We've got one public hearing, which is House Bill 13. We'll have the public hearing today, and we will, though, put that on the committee for next week. And next week, we'll certainly take the time to discuss that bill and vote on it. So we welcome all of you here. Brady, what about call the roll for me?
Hill.
Here.
Wadsworth. Here. England.
Roll Tide.
Bedsole. Brinyard.
Absent.
Chestnut. Faulkner.
Here, Roll Tide.
McClammy. Pettis.
I'll say Roll Tide too.
Robbins. Robertson. Simpson.
Roll Tide.
Starnes. Stringer. Tillman. We have a quorum.
Good. So we've now just eliminated the individuals that are going to be allowed to ask questions. So this meeting is going to move very quickly. But before we do, I want to introduce 4 guests that we have today that I'm very happy to have here. We have Terry Lovell. Terry's the Executive Director of the Alabama Bar Association. We have Chad Coker, who is the COO of the Alabama Bar Association. We have Fred Hemsley, who's the President of the Alabama Bar Association, and Susie Huffaker, who is their liaison with the legislature. So we are certainly glad to have all 4 of you here. Welcome you back at any time. First bill we will take up is 105. Mr. Gidley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, and also David Faulkner. I hope that doesn't equal a no vote here in this meeting. Thanks so much. Some of you've seen the summary of this bill here. This is what we call an anti-grooming bill. Basically what this bill does, it takes current legislation and increases it to make sure that nobody has the ability to allure through electronic means or the other means children into sexual exploitation or sex trafficking. This in the under your synopsis there at the last paragraph, it says this bill would also provide that the purpose of jurisdiction of crime involving the solicitation of a child by electronic means is committed in any county in which a part of the crime took place, the victim decided, or any image that was received. If you look through the bill, you'll see several places there where the additions have been made. On the page number 3, it says a person commits the crime of enticing a child for immoral purposes if he or she entices, allures, persuades, grooms, or invites or attempts to entice, elude, persuade, or groom in any of the following reasons. And it, of course, gives you a list there of those reasons. And then on page 4, it says, for the purpose of this section, the term groom means to engage in a pattern of behavior that seeks to prepare, induce, or persuade a child. The behavior may include, but is not limited to, deliberate acts of establishing an emotional connection through manipulation, trust building, influence, gift giving, or physical touch, and may be facilitated by the following, and gives you the list there. Here's the reason for this bill. There is no links we can go to that are too far when to make sure we protect our children from being enticed, pulled, or drawn into either sex trafficking or sexual exploitation or any of those things that would derail them from the purpose God created them for. So I think this is a great bill. I hope that you will give it a favorable report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody except David Faulkner might have for me.
Chairman. Yes, sir.
Question. Thank you.
Representative Gidley,
Yes,
did
sir.
you work with the Office of Prosecution Services, DAs, in drafting this?
Yes, sir, I did. Thank you so much for bringing it up. I worked with OPS very diligently, with Tricia Melborg, with the DA's Association, and they went through this bill. We made a number of changes. They vetted it extensively over the course of several months to make sure we had a bulletproof bill, a very strong bill, a very legal bill, and a bill that would really serve its purpose. Yes, I did. Thank you for bringing it up, David.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'd move to give the bill a favorable report at the appropriate time.
And we have a second from Mr. Phillips. So go ahead. Are there any other questions?
Is that all we have to do to get Faulkner to say good things about our bill?
Very much. Yeah. Yes. All right, so we got a motion and a second to give this bill a favorable report. Is there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Representative Gidley, thank you a lot. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman of the committee, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for bringing it. Mr. Baker, you here? Nope. Mr. Estes? No, I think Estes told me he was going to be a minute late. Mr. Rigsby, you here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. That was perfect timing walking in the door there. This is HB 111, and I think that was not planned, that it was triple ones, because this is the anti-cloning bill that I brought last year. Yeah, y'all got that. That was a joke. This is the anti-cloning bill that I bought last year, and just a quick refresher. The reason I'm bringing this piece of legislation is many times we bring legislation that's reactionary to something that's already happened, and with the advancement of science and how quickly science is moving, this is a piece of legislation that puts some guardrails before something does happen. So to answer a question before the question is asked, no, we have not successfully cloned a human completely. We have done some animal cloning successfully, but we have not done that in humans yet. But all this does is basically says that we cannot use someone's own genetic material to create embryo and a zygote, which will eventually then completely clone a human in full form, and just prevents that.
Does anyone have a question? Yes, sir, Mr. Torrance.
We passed this out of this committee last year, didn't we?
That's right. We got it through the committee, got it off the House floor, and I got it through the Senate committee, and it did not make it to the end.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Please, go ahead.
Just one thing that I want to bring to your attention, I support your bill, but one thing that I want the members to understand and the public to understand about what this bill does is if you look on line 54 on page 3, just to be clear, this does not apply to in vitro fertilization or fertility enhancing drugs. So that way it's not an issue that we need to, that delves into that. So thank you for making that exception.
That's correct. It also does not apply to agricultural cloning because that's done as well. So it does not apply to that either.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Simpson. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? Favorable report? We got a motion for a favorable report. Is there a second? Mr. Robinson? Okay. Motion is second for a favorable report. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
We appreciate you. All right, I don't see Baker here yet. Tell you what, let's do, Mr. Faulkner, why don't we go ahead and do 192? I know you're here.
Members, under existing law, an individual is justified in using physical force upon another in order to defend himself or herself or a third party from what the acting individual reasonably believes to be the use or imminent use of unlawful physical force by another. This bill would provide that in such a proceeding, the commencement of a trial against the defendant prior to the commencement of trial against the defendant, in which the defendant claims his or her use of force is justified, the defendant must show by preponderance of the evidence that his or her use of force was justified. This bill would provide that in such a proceeding, if the defendant concealed, altered, destroyed, or otherwise disposed of a weapon used in the commission of physical force or deadly physical force, other than voluntarily providing the weapon to law enforcement, there's a presumption that the defendant's use of force was not justified. Now, that presumption can be overcome. So if you dump the gun that you claim you used in self-defense, there's going to be a presumption that you did not act in self-defense, but you can overcome that presumption in here. But that's really what the bill does, and I know we have an amendment.
All right, let's hear. Who's got the amendment?
I do.
Thanks.
The amendment to 192 is in your packet. It replaces lines 126 through 128 on page 5 with the following: otherwise disposed of the deadly weapon or dangerous instrument used in the commission of the alleged offense, other than by voluntarily providing it to the unaltered deadly weapon or dangerous instrument to law enforcement, there shall be a. It just puts in the codified the already studied language of a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument.
You're offering that amendment. Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Thank you. All right. And are there any questions or comments on the amendment? And all in favor of accepting the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The amendment is accepted. So, Mr. Faulkner, now it's back to you as amended. Anything else?
No, sir. I think, unless anybody has any questions, I do have someone here from OPS if there's a more technical or question about it.
So you make a motion, we give your bill a favorable report.
That'd be
As
great.
amended, okay. Is there a second to that? Thank you. There's a motion and a second to give this bill a favorable report as amended. Are there any questions now on the bill or the amendment? Go ahead, Mr. Ingram, please.
So essentially, when it comes to self-defense, that's an affirmative defense that you assert as the defendant when you're accused of an intentional or a murder or homicide, whatever, right? So in this sense, if the person who's accused discards the weapon, then that becomes evidence that they were not defending themselves, correct?
It becomes a presumption that because they do not have that evidence, it's a presumption that they're not entitled to that defense in that pretrial proceeding.
So at that point, the burden would shift to the defendant to show that.
If they do not, right, if they do not have it.
All right, so when we're talking
To overcome the presumption.
all right, so, and I'm assuming, can I see your amendment real quick?
Yes.
I got it. So if you voluntarily provide the weapon to law enforcement, then you aren't, that will overcome that presumption.
That's correct.
All right. Do you think, or does this have anything also to do with maybe stand your ground defense as well? Because also you've got multiple options available to you. You got stand your ground, you got self-defense. So if you assert your stand your ground, can this also apply in that situation as well?
Katie? Chris, I don't want to say something that's not correct. Mr. Chairman.
Sir, certainly, we'll certainly hear her. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
No, and I'm just asking because I don't know, because, you can, as a defendant, you can use both.
Thank you.
You can assert, I'm immune from prosecution. Then also you can say, I was defending myself too. So I was just wondering how those two things.
The rebuttable presumption would apply at both phases. So if someone asserted a stand your ground defense pre-trial, then the rebuttable presumption would be in effect there. in a pretrial hearing, the burden of proof is on the defendant. However, let's say they don't do a stand your ground hearing and just want to prove self-defense at trial. At that point, the rebuttable presumption still exists, but the burden's on the state to overcome it by beyond a reasonable doubt. Just the same as self-defense is now.
Okay. All right. That's pretty much all I got. I just want to kind of clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wadsworth.
On page 5, it says that any time when a defense is claimed under this section, if the defendant concealed, altered, destroyed, or otherwise disposed of the weapon. What does the term disposed of the weapon mean in this?
Got rid of it,
Just
dumped it,
gave it away to somebody, gave it to back to the
threw
owner?
it in the woods, threw it in a lake.
What if they just gave it back to the owner?
Gave it back to the owner.
Yeah.
Well, they'd still have the weapon.
If they have the weapon and they just give it back to maybe to whoever is the owner, is that?
Well, as long as they can get the weapon, they overcome the presumption.
Okay.
This is just if you're going to say I did this crime in self-defense, I committed the act in self-defense, then this just says, well, then you need to have whatever that weapon was you used to commit the act of self-defense. And if you don't, there's going to be a presumption you were not acting in self-defense.
Okay.
Does that answer it, Tim?
I didn't know if that was defined anywhere, but, okay.
Okay. Hey, Mr. McClammy, did you have a question or comment either way?
I just have a question. It says that the defendant concealed or altered or destroyed the weapon. Suppose someone else is in that home. Let's say the defendant ran out the house and called police afterwards, outside or somewhere, and the weapon goes missing from somebody else. Is the defendant still going to have to prove that he had a weapon if it was a knife and there are knife stab wounds right there in that person?
You're saying like somebody else out there took the weapon.
People get scared in situations.
Yeah, I think you would be presenting that to overcome the presumption. You're showing the judge, the court, that you did not throw this away intentionally. Mm-hmm. There's a reason you don't have the weapon that you're claiming you used in self-defense. And as long as you have that, that overcomes the presumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Brilliant.
I think you may have just cleared up my question / statement. So really the presumption in your bill is that if someone had acted in self-defense and then later on when the investigation's happening, they realize, hey, they dumped the gun. They said, well, I was acting in self-defense, but I don't have the gun anymore. Is there a thought that they were guilty, they were feeling guilty, and they felt like they needed to destroy evidence or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you want to have and look, I'm not a criminal guy, as you know, but criminal law, but you want to make, if people are going to claim, I use this in self-defense, well then, where is it? Instead of you disposed of it, you got rid of it, you destroyed it for some reason. And so this helps get to the truth. And that's why I think the reason's in here. And I think it's a really good.
Is this something you're carrying for like OPS or somebody?
The district attorneys and OPS, yes.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
All right, I think we've got a motion and a second to give this bill a favorable report as amended. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Faulkner, thank you. Who? Okay. Who? Mr. Bolton, didn't you just come in? Come on in, please, sir. House Bill 158, please.
Yes, sir, please, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What 158, HB 158 does, it increases the penalties for certain prostitution offenses. This bill comes at the request of the West Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force, and we work together on it with them and also with the counties to try to make sure we could get everything acceptable here. But the bottom line is what this does is this changes, it rises the penalty for promoting prostitution in a third degree from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class D felony. And then also it changes the structure of the punishments for people that are actually Johns or participants. The first conviction would be a Class A misdemeanor. The second conviction would still be a Class A misdemeanor, but would have a minimum of 5 days of jail sentence attached to it. The third offense would be a Class D felony. It'd have a minimum of 30 days attached to it. And if the victim that is solicited happens to be a victim of human trafficking, automatically the charge would be a Class D felony for the John. And it's no defense, what we put in here is no defense that they didn't know that the person was a victim of human trafficking.
Okay, we've got an amendment. Go ahead, Mr. Betzold. Let's do the amendment.
Yes, sir. Replace line 56 on page 2 with the following. Then 5 days in the county jail, the person shall be required to pay the housing, maintenance, and medical costs associated with his or her incarceration as provided in section 14-6-22. And secondly, replace line 59 on page 3 with the following. Not less than 30 days in the county jail. Time served in the county jail prior to the person's conviction shall be credited towards the sentence.
All right, you've heard the amendment. Is there a second to that amendment? Second. Thank you. All right, so the amendment, there's got an amendment and a second. You've heard it. Are there any questions concerning the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment is adopted. So, Mr. Bolton, we are back to you with your bill as amended.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Wadsworth has moved for a favorable report. Second. And there's a second.
I have a quick question.
By all means, please.
Representative Bolton, I have a quick question about your bill.
Sure.
And more, I wonder if you'd be willing to work on something in the future on this. In the way I'm reading it, this is already existing code, it's just a little tweak where it says a person commits the crime of promoting prostitution in the third degree if he or she knowingly advances or profits from prostitution. Well, I guess my question to you is, do you think that if I was to run a website, you know, I'm not quote unquote the pimp, but I allow people to post and to solicit prostitution via my website, am I profiting?
If there's any pecuniary gain, I would say yes.
And so, you know, I don't want to tie your bill up, but maybe later this session or even next session, would you be willing to work on a bill with me that would maybe tie together that
yes,
it would explicitly state that, because there you are profiting. So if you know that people are posting or say advertising, you're not the one actively advertising, but you are providing them the platform to actively advertise.
Yes, sir.
You are profiting off of prostitution.
I would certainly be willing to look at that and take your recommendations on it. What we're trying to do is kind of back up our law enforcement to kind of give them a little bit of more control over what they've got going on trying to enforce the prostitution law.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or no comments? And there is a motion and a second to give this bill a favorable report as amended. Am I not right? Okay. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you,
it
Judge.
very much. Mr. Estes, did you come in?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we often do, we serve on one committee and rush out to carry a bill on another. I'd like to thank the chairman. He has spent some time with me this morning. I called and drew his attention to something. I had a concern with my own bill. I dropped this, pre-filed it on January the 7th, and in working with LSA, we felt like we had all of our bases covered, but something sometimes hits you in the middle of the night. So I was laying in the bed last night and something hit me. I thought I need to call the judge first thing in the morning. So what our bill does, HB 132, it really just adds a classification to an existing code. And we've added to these over the years and different people we want to protect from serious physical injury. And the one class we have added, if you look on page 4, line number 98, is it says, with intent to cause physical injury to a child as defined in section 1622-A-3, located in an educational environment as defined in section 1622A-3, he or she causes physical injury to any person. My intent was primarily, we've had an incident in my district where two young men in high school had a fight, and the father of the boy that took the bad end of it showed up at school one day, and the young man that initiated the bad end of it just happened to walk through the hall, and the father, the one that lost, I guess you would say, the father took advantage and landed a couple of blows. So my intent was to try to protect people from coming in off campus, that had no intention, real reason to be on the educational campuses at that time or in the high school building or something. But the more I thought about this, I was asking the judge, was he fearful that we may have left it open to just, two kids getting in a scrape in the hallway? And I know that the judicial system doesn't want to have to handle that. And I know I want to make sure we keep local authority and control in terms of the principal, the superintendent, and the Board of Education. And so the judge assured me if I would come today that we would work on this. And I didn't know if we needed a specific amendment to address that, or if the retired judge would have a recommendation we could step forward with.
All right, let me tell the committee what my concern is, and Matt, you can weigh in on this as well as anybody. Here's what I was concerned about when Tracy talked to me. Two kids just get in a fight, just a fist fight. I don't want that to turn into a Class B felony. So here's my thought on this line 98, and somebody may have a better one than this. But with intent to cause serious physical injury to a child, does so. Causes serious physical injury. I'm like you, I don't want somebody walking into school and hitting one of our kids with a stick. Or I don't want one child at school hitting another one with a stick. I can see where those could absolutely rise to a more serious, criminal type event. But what I don't want is a fist fight turning into a juvenile court delinquency type thing. So Matt?
On page 2, line 1, with intent to cause serious physical injury to another person, he causes serious physical injury to another person. So that's already covered in what you would describe if you're talking about causing. My concern, if you put the serious physical injury language in, that's death or disfigurement, and so you're saying you have to intend to cause that for something that's already on the code because they already have with intent to cause serious physical injury. I do think, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, I do think this may need to go to the criminal subcommittee to have some people to look at it and evaluate it, because you may want to put something along the lines of, with what Representative Estes thought was, a non-student comes onto campus, causes injury to a student. That would potentially be much better than I brought the same thing up to Representative England, and that was our discussion previously. The way it's written now, if he and I get into a fight, which we won't, I just want everybody to know we get along really well, no matter what you read in the papers.
And this is also not an educational environment.
There you go. Definitely. That is true.
Truer words never said.
So I do think that the way it is written now, it would have two students. If we get into a fight, you could charge them with a felony. But I do think if we work with his intended goal of someone outside of the campus that enters, or an adult that attacks a child, or something along the lines, and I think that can get done.
So, Mr. Estes, that's what I think that's a good recommendation. I'm going to send this to our criminal subcommittee. I'm going to ask you to meet with them.
Yes, sir.
If you would, before next week, Mr. Wadsworth, and let's get this, because this is something that we certainly, I think we're all in agreement with your intent.
Yes, sir.
Everybody is. So we'll go from there. Our criminal subcommittee is Representative Wadsworth, Bedsole, Ingram, Simpson, Starnes, Stringer, and Tillman. So, gentlemen, if y'all would please get together and let's see if we can't work some language out. With that, we will continue this until next week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Judge, I just had a question to ask.
By all means, go ahead.
A gentleman. Did I hear you say that you called a judge before the hearing?
I called, yes, this morning. I said, I think I may have a problem, and I need to see what I can do here, or do we just carry it over to the next meeting?
Let me tell you something. You never admit that you had an ex parte conversation with a judge.
Listen, this is why I always hate coming before this committee, because you've got all these great minds up here, despite what some out here might think, and I've never been an attorney or in law enforcement, so this is the reason I'd always dread bringing bills before Judy. But I appreciate your patience. Mr. Chairman, I'll take that, and we'll get that done before next week.
And I appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, members.
We've got a public hearing. Public hearing is on House Bill 13. Mr. Yarborough, are you here? Yes, sir. Come on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you. Let's talk about public hearings for a second, okay? We're going to let people talk on both sides. No more than 3 people on each side. We're going to let Mr. Yarborough explain his bill. We're going to let 3 of you talk. At that point in time, the committee will be able to ask questions to anyone who speaks. So if you come up here to speak, understand you could be questions about this. You will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. If there are questions following that, certainly that can go over the 3 minutes. That's perfectly all right. That's not going to be an issue. We will not vote on this bill today. We will hear your comments. We will hear the public. We will have the public hearing. We will hear from Mr. Yarborough. Mr. Yarborough, you will need to be back next week, because I will put this back on our committee next week. Okay. So with that, sir, please go ahead, if you would, explain House Bill 13 for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You have before you HB 13, which was passed out of this committee last session. It is known as the Lake and Riley Act, and it comes from a similar bill out of Georgia that was passed. Obviously, we all know the story of Lake and Riley. And so, in a nutshell, what this bill does is it provides an optional path for state and local law enforcement agencies to enter into an MOU with the federal government to enforce existing federal immigration laws that are on the books. And this is to help with the flooding of particularly criminal elements into our country over the last several years, and we feel like that grassroots help to work together with the federal government on existing laws will help make our communities more safe. That's the nutshell.
Okay. Why don't we, if anybody have any questions, you certainly can ask, but we're going to bring this back next week and let you talk with Mr. Yarborough in more detail. Let's look at our individuals speaking for or against. We have 3 in opposition, and it looks like Reverend Thomas is the first one on my list. So, Reverend Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for the opportunity to share with you. I can make a number of rational arguments against this bill. I choose to spend my time, though, with a personal story. My youngest child is a daughter. She's 18. Great kid. She is an Eagle Scout. Excellent student. She earned 52 hours of credit while in high school. She's now an honor student at UAB. Active in our church. She is a model citizen. She's what I hope that our teenagers would grow up to be. And she's afraid to leave our house. She refuses to drive. The reason is that we adopted her from Guatemala. We brought her home on her first birthday. She became a U.S. citizen on her first birthday. But she sees the news, she sees what's going on, and simply because of the color of her hair, the color of her skin, she is nervous about being in public. Her parents are nervous as well. I try not to let her leave the house without her passport. U.S. citizens in our country are not supposed to have to show papers in public. You know that. You're aware of it. But that's a fear that we live with. Until now, most of her fear has been the possible encounter with ICE officers. But as I read this bill, I see that it potentially makes any state law enforcement officer an ICE officer, including even those on her campus at UAB. And it enables those officers to arrest and detain someone on probable cause of being an undocumented immigrant. It doesn't define what that probable cause looks like, and I'm curious if my daughter's skin color is probable cause for her detention, or if she's hanging out with the wrong group of people. Maybe it's a language, although I speak more Spanish than she does. The probable cause concerns me, and on top of that, the fact that there is no recourse for law enforcement officers. The bill gives the law enforcement officers immunity for getting it wrong. So if they arrest my daughter, we have no recourse against that. And it's not an isolated story. There are thousands of law-abiding immigrants in our state that will be at risk. And I'm fearful for what it does for law enforcement, too. My oldest child is in law enforcement. He's a sheriff's deputy over in Georgia. And I see that from this side as well. If we pass this bill, we are going to make a larger percentage of our population fearful and maybe even antagonistic towards law enforcement, preventing them from doing the job of actually keeping us safe. The vast majority of undocumented immigrants in our state are not criminals. They're not here to destroy us, to rape us, or to steal our children. They're here to try to make a better life, to try to make Alabama a better state. And this bill makes it difficult for all of that to be accomplished. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate you very much. And just hang around, because if somebody has a question, I'm going to let them ask you. I'd like to.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have any indication that the color of someone's skin is listed as probable cause?
I see nothing in the bill as I've read it.
Do you know the definition of probable cause?
I do not know what you mean by negation of probable cause.
Okay, my issue is, and I appreciate you coming up here, and thank you for what you've done for your daughter. Yes. When you talk about scaring people and you talk about the fear, when you get up here and you say it's probable cause because of somebody's color of skin, that initiates fear that there is absolutely zero legal basis for. And that creates a fear of interactions with law enforcement when there is no probable cause, because you're saying, oh, because of the color of her skin, that's probable cause. That's just not a correct statement of the law. And I know we're not supposed to go far into these public testimonies, but when you get up and say these things, those have repercussions, and everybody that's watching this and everybody's got their cameras out and seeing this, and when you just stay, and if we leave it unchecked for you to say, well, it's probable cause because of the color of her skin, that's just not right.
With all due respect, sir, I ask about probable cause because the bill does not explain it. For all the rest of, for those of us who do not have law degrees, we read that probable cause that you might be illegal. We would like some explanation. What all does that?
Probable cause that you've committed an offense. Probable cause that you've committed an offense. It's not just simply the color of your skin. It's not.
If she's pulled over driving down the road for speeding, and they notice her Hispanic descent.
Does she have a license?
She has a license.
So she has a license that would say she is from here. There's a lot of people like your daughter, like your family, that have done it the right way. They've gone about and became citizens of this country, and they put the efforts to become citizens of this country. And when you come in and you stoke the flames and you say, oh, well, they're trying to get everybody that's brown, or they're trying to get everybody with brown hair, that causes that fear to escalate. And we need to make sure that when we have these conversations that we're not stoking more fear by incorrect statements of the law.
And I'm not trying to do that. As I read it, my concern was that that type of language without clarity in the bill may actually encourage profiling, which none of us want to see. And when I look at the news reports that I do follow, and I see law enforcement targeting places where there's a large immigrant population employed, that adds to that appearance as well. Whether it's legal or not, I'm not sure.
Okay. Mr.
Ingram?
Ingram?
Just real quick, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't want anybody to mistake that there's a very long, significant history, not just in this country, but also in the state of Alabama, of people being racially profiled. So your daughter's fear is not unfounded.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold it. Just wait just a second. This is certainly a public hearing. We're certainly glad to have each and every one of you here. If you can sit here and listen, you are welcome to stay. If you cannot, please leave. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Ingram.
And so I don't want anyone to believe that your fear or your testimony is irrational or unreasonable. And, also, I don't want to cast a wide net and say that, law enforcement in general is just a bad thing.
Absolutely not.
But as you know, and many others know, that, bad apples spoil the bunch. And oftentimes what you see is, and you see it across the country, and I'm pretty sure you talk to a lot of people who've fallen victim to situations where they were treated a specific way because of their color of their skin. I mean, I've experienced it, and, I did the best I could to do the right thing. So I share the same concerns with this legislation that you do, because what I don't want, and I don't think what people want, is that for vague laws to be created that weaponize law enforcement against your average, everyday citizen.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just people who are here undocumented, because, I don't want to sound cliche, but a threat to justice for one is a threat to justice for all.
Yes, sir.
So whereas we could be in pursuit of people who we believe are here without documentation, everybody else becomes collateral damage in that cause.
Yes, sir.
So we have to be very careful in how we draft legislation like this, because ultimately what we don't want to do is create fear in people that are here just to do the right thing, who just don't want to be bothered, right?
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, we don't want the Constitution that protects us, or all of us, to be just a speed bump on our way to wherever destination we're headed. So I commend you, and I understand where you're coming from, and I also understand why you have the fear for your daughter that you do, because I have the same fear for my children as well.
Thank you, Mr. England.
Ms. Downing. Thank you, sir. We have a Tanawa Downing. Come on up. Sorry, I obviously misread it. Go ahead.
So my name is Tanwood Downing, and I'm a civil rights advocate and litigator out of Washington, D.C. And I have no problem with the state of Alabama creating a law that increases participation with the federal government with regard to customs operations. I think that that's a great thing that state and federal government work together. However, we need to make sure that those agents of the state is acting consistent with the limitations of power that the Constitution of the United States of America provides in the execution of their duties. Let me give you an example here. So the Constitution of the United States of America, Clause 1 of Amendment 5, that's obviously the overarching requirement that every state must follow, including your agents, as well as also customs and customs enforcement. But Clause 1 of Amendment 5, what it says that no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. That's clear. You got to have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or an infamous crime. An infamous crime is any crime that's punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment in a penitentiary. I think we all understand that. A lot of these people that are being arrested by customs are being arrested on infamous crimes, and none of them have an indictment by a grand jury. This is an unconstitutional act. So the issue here is that if you guys permit your agents, law enforcement, sheriff's department, to work with the ICE agents, and those ICE agents are not following the constitutional obligations that they have enumerated within the Bill of Rights, then your agents are actually committing a crime. Now, an emolument violation is when you pay someone to violate the Constitution. You can't do that. Certainly not when you receive federal funding. You can never pay someone to violate federal law when you receive federal funding. So, again, if your agents are simply relying upon the customs and customs enforcement to go out and do their duty, but customs is abridging the obligations codified in the Constitution, then your agents are now implicated within that criminal act. So you need to make sure that your agents are aware of the constitutional obligations that they have, because if the federal government simply comes in and you guys assist them, that is the crime of conspiracy to deprive of rights. It's Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 242. It's also a violation of the base crime of Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 242 and 241, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. So 242, what it says any person who, under the color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of any rights secured by the Constitution commits that crime. The conspiracy to deprive of rights, 241, what that says is when two or more persons conspire with the purpose of depriving any person of any rights secured by the Constitution commits that crime. So what we're saying, or what I'm trying to say here is that you guys are responsible budgetarily for agents of this state, particularly the judiciary, and also the county jails. And if these county jails are facilitating the holding of these immigrants or these people that are being arrested by customs, you guys are actually responsible budgetarily for that criminal act to occur, and that is, again, an emolument violation. You can never pay someone to violate the Constitution. So I think that you guys need to make sure that before you approve working with the federal government, that you push back on the federal government, you make sure that they're obeying the Constitution for the United States of America, because if they're not, and you permit your agents after being provided with this notice, then criminal sanctions can come from that. We don't want to head down that path. I want everybody to understand the limitations of power the Constitution has.
We appreciate you very
Thank you so much. I do have a notice, a white paper here that I can provide you, and I would love if you guys would review that.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Could I ask the gentleman a question? Can ICE agents detain someone for being in the country illegally? If they have not committed a crime while they're in the United States, are ICE agents able to, do they constitutionally have the authority to detain someone who is in the country illegally?
They do, but if that arrest is deriving from an infamous crime, which is any crime punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment in a penitentiary, then that arrest, that detainment is still unconstitutional because it still is in violation of Clause 1 of Amendment 5. And remember, the Constitution doesn't say all citizens receive it. It says all persons, right? No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So even the detainment of a person. Yes, sir.
The question was pretty simple.
And I answered it, sir.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to follow that. I think you said yes at first. They do have the right to detain someone even if they've not committed a crime while in the United States, just for being here illegally. I think you said yes, but then you were making a point that if they have committed a crime here in the United States, that they need to be indicted by a grand jury, then you're saying they could possibly be being held?
The crime of being here within the United States isn't of itself an infamous crime. That crime is still infamous. There's still a requirement.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It is still infamous in nature.
Okay. So the answer is they can be detained?
They can be detained, absolutely.
Okay.
The powers exist, but they have to be detained consistent with the procedures and processes the Constitution demands.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One more time, who are you with?
Justice Without Limits.
When you first came up here, you introduced yourself as being from Washington, D.C.?
I am.
And did you say you were?
I'm a civil rights advocate out of Washington, D.C.
A civil rights
advocate? Yes, and all the information is right here within this white paper. If you will receive it, I'd be more than happy to provide it to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is it Ms. Omif, OMIF?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. I'm trying to read, and everybody writes about it as well as I do, and so I probably mispronounce names.
My name has 4 letters, and it's the worst name to pronounce. Esteemed legislators and fellow Alabamians, we're all here because I believe that each and every one of us wants the best quality of life for Alabamians, and I think that's why every one of y'all ran and won your positions. HB 13 ain't it, y'all. That's not going to give the best quality of life for Alabama. First of all, we've already been down this road before. When remember about 15 years ago, we had a little bill that was passed and became law called HB 56 in 2011. Anybody remember that? Well, I do. I'm an immigration lawyer. I had lines out my door, every seat. There was standing room only in my waiting area. Arizona's SB 1070 and Alabama's HB 56 were struck down by the Supreme Court of the United States. Why are we recycling it again? I mean, what's going on here? How much money did the state of Alabama spend trying to represent this bill, trying to defend this bill? Our Attorney General, I don't remember who was Attorney General at the time, but I mean, we spent, I have it down here somewhere, what we spent, $350,000 to groups, to SPLC and ACLU were paid out as part of the settlement because the previous bill like this one didn't stand. I don't know what's so different about it. It's still unconstitutional. The first speaker that came up opposing this bill, he kind of got it right. And I would say the same thing he said, only instead of probable cause, I would insert reasonable suspicion. This bill is trying to make reasonable suspicion out of the way you look, out of skin color. I have seen ICE officer reports written up, because I read those. As an attorney, I'm one of the few people in this very room that have read multiple reports directly from ICE officers, many of whom I have created years-long professional relationships with and have great respect for. But I'm sorry, Border Patrol writes up haircuts. I mean, what are y'all using as a basis to stop somebody? I'm already seeing these geo bounty hunters on the side of 65 in Birmingham. They're already starting to arrest people, and I would say unlawfully. They're arresting people based on being brown driving. Or I don't know, maybe they're pulling their tags real quick and seeing a Latino-sounding name. That is being reasonable suspicion, excuse me. You know, I've got a weird last name. None of y'all said you could pronounce it, and I get that all the time. So am I up for this? Because I got a weird name that actually originated in Egypt. So am I going to be reasonably suspicioned and pulled over and thrown into an ice tank? They won't do that to me because they all know me and they respect me because they know I work my rear off for my clients. But you've got...
Ma'am, your 3 minutes is up, but do me a favor. Mr. Simpson has a question. You said your name was the most 4 letters, but most difficult to pronounce. Would you please pronounce it for me?
Oh, Rafe.
Okay, no, you're right, ma'am. I would have guessed it for 1,000 years and never have gotten an R in there.
Don't throw me into an ice wagon because of my name.
Not going to, but Mr. Simpson has a question. Please, go ahead.
What you caught there, and may not, what I kind of want to drive everybody's attention to, what you did there was move the goalpost, because the bill, it says probable cause. That's what's in there. You're a practicing attorney. You know that there's a difference between probable cause and reasonable suspicion, right?
Yes, I do understand that.
So when you move the goalpost to say that it was reasonable suspicion, that's not what the bill says. The bill says probable cause, right?
That is correct, but
Thank
can
you.
I address that?
I'm done.
Can I respond to this?
In a moment. Mr. Bedsoe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a current member of law enforcement, I try to remain silent when it comes to these issues that I feel like that the law enforcement community is under attack. And Representative Simpson, I think, did a fine job a minute ago citing some concerns with one of the previous speakers in terms of insinuating or inciting some of the fear that goes on. I've been in the profession 27 years, and I have never, not one time, been a part of or seen or been in the same room or encounter any directives, any policy, any unorganized agreement amongst officers to go out and target people based off the color of their skin, their nationality. And if this is a systemic problem, then I would believe in 27 years that I would have seen it somewhere. You by trade, ma'am, and in what you have done in some of your statements have done some of the same as incited as well. And I would stand to believe here that you could financially profit from inciting that fear in these people, that they're going to come to you as for protection. And so for you to come here today and make some of the comments, I believe to this committee was a little disrespectful in your tone and tenor anyway, that I find disrespectful to the law enforcement community that are out doing the right thing. This bill simply sets up a provision and allows, if a city, municipality, or the state wishes to enter into an agreement, they can. It does not direct anyone to go out and begin immigration enforcement and does not tell them how to do the job. And so simply to say otherwise is inciting fear by these people that are here today. And that's really all I had to say about that.
Mr. Robbins, you have a question or a comment?
I have a quick question. You mentioned immigration bill from years ago. I think it was HB 56. I've read HB 56, and can you tell me what in this bill is also in HB 156? Because I don't think there's a single thing in that bill from 15 years ago that is in this bill. So we've not recycled the same ideas. These are new grounds. And so nothing in this bill has been proven unconstitutional based off that Arizona law you mentioned and the previous Alabama law. Can you tell me where there might be where we are recycling the same idea?
You're recycling the same idea by giving local law enforcement duties that should go to the federal government under the preemptive doctrine and under the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. And I think everybody here should be familiar with that. If not, I have a handout to explain what the supremacy clause is. I have it available if anyone requests. But I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of you. May I respond to the others as well? The other comments as well?
If you'll do so very briefly, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And, sir, I mean no disrespect to law enforcement. As an attorney, I've had to work closely with them and form relationships. As I mentioned earlier, I have an excellent relationship with the immigration officers. And I would think they would agree as well. And I don't stand to profit from any of this. I'm semi-retired, and I'm trying not to take any more immigration cases, to be honest. And I said after what happened 15 years ago, I said I'd never get involved in activism again. But when I stood on the sidelines and watched, I felt morally responsible as an Alabamian, wanting to make our state better, wanting to have a better quality of life for everyone so that we have the funds available to improve our education, improve our infant mortality rates, stop our hospital closures, things like that. That's where we need to be spending our money instead of defending these bills that are stepping on the toes of the federal government and forgetting about the preemption clause.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your response very much. Ms. Hamilton, did you wish to make a comment? Okay, sure, Mr. Chestnut, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, to say that for us to act as though race and ethnicity would not play a role in this situation is to be like ostriches to put our heads in the sand. We even have cases that are out there. There's a case out there in the Supreme Court where Justice Kavanaugh, basically, he said something along the lines of perceived ethnicity, limited English proficiency, lack of paperwork can establish reasonable suspicion for immigration stops. So if you have a justice of the Supreme Court saying that, and you have a lay police officer on the beat who's not educated in these laws, there's absolutely there's a very high probability that that officer who's not trained in the law many times is going to look at a person's lack of paperwork, and if they have a thick accent or they have an olive color or darker colored skin, they're going to assume that that person is here illegally. So I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Hamilton, please.
Hello. My name is Allison Hamilton. I'm a resident of Shelby County and Executive Director for the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice. As others mentioned, through this bill, Representative Yarborough proposes to divert more of our state resources to do the work of ICE for them. This is the same ICE agency that is currently terrorizing the people of Minnesota and across the nation. Just last week, ICE agents detonated a canister of tear gas into a car with 6 children inside, including a 6-month-old baby boy who had to be revived by CPR. This is the agency that regularly, yes, detains U.S. citizens, even when they have identification. One citizen in Alabama has been detained twice this year while working on construction sites and was accused of having a fake star ID both times. We are in a very dangerous moment when a federal agency is being used to silence American people. Alabama law enforcement officers did not sign up for that. If they wanted to, they could take the $50,000 hiring bonus to work for ICE and skip the intensive training that Alabama requires. Last year, ICE was given an additional $75 billion, while funds for the DOJ's state and local law enforcement assistant program were cut to $2 billion. It makes no sense for Alabama to use our very limited resources to supplement the work of the highest funded federal law enforcement agency, especially when that agency has been turned against the American people. Rejecting this bill is a responsible choice for Alabama taxpayers and the right choice for the safety of Alabama's people. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, does any member of the committee have a question for any particular individual who has spoken? Go ahead.
Thank you, Representative Bedsole, for what you've done. Thank you, Representative Stringer, for your law enforcement. Thank you, Representative Starnes, for your law enforcement background. We've just sat up here and listened to 3 people whine about law enforcement, attack our ICE agents, attack their decency, attack their intelligence, attack everything that goes on with law enforcement. And part of it, and why I'm doing this and why I'm combating this argument is because for too long, we've stood back and made our law enforcement officers the battery of what they've received, where they're constantly under attack, where they're constantly, no one's defending them, no one's standing up and saying, no, there's a difference between reasonable suspicion and probable cause, and I trust our officers to understand that difference. And so when we get up here and just hear more and more attacks on ICE agents, ICE agents, ICE agents, and we stoke fear and say, well, these people are afraid and these people are afraid, we send the message that they should be afraid because we send such a bad message for law enforcement. And that's not right. We owe it to our citizens to understand there's a truth out there. And the truth is not spun based on what political party or what belief you have, but you have to sit there and listen to people instead of just combating and everyone's evil and everyone's terrible. And I didn't want to sit here and have our ICE agents continuously be attacked, our law enforcement continuously to be attacked by people that are up here just stoking fears.
Thank you. Sir, Mr. Ingram.
Just you know, I don't want to be disingenuous here and pretend like racism doesn't exist. And that honestly floors me, because the reason that we can't have a reasonable conversation about immigration enforcement is because instead of hearing what people say is their personal experience, those voices are marginalized and turned into conversations about impugning law enforcement as an entire body, which means that ultimately we are not listening or respecting the voices of the people who may have been who've experienced some of this discrimination or racism. And I'm not speaking from just some general term. As a black person in Alabama, I have experienced it myself. I have friends that are in law enforcement, and I love them dearly. I respect what they do every day and what they deal with. But I also recognize that some of the people that they serve with are evil. and they should not have a badge. So a reasonable person can deduce that although law enforcement as a body is not full of corrupt people, there are individuals who absolutely have no business being in law enforcement, and they do things that they are not supposed to do. They victimize and they hurt people. So with that in mind, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to think and be afraid that their ethnicity can be weaponized and used against them by somebody who's untrained, who's unhinged, and has absolutely no business being in law enforcement. So I don't think it's unreasonable for people to have a certain level of fear if they have experienced some things in their past. I know for me personally, I do at times. When I was younger, I was pulled over for an illegal left turn, taken out of my car at gunpoint, and a gun pointed at me for 20 minutes as someone discussed with me, asked me questions about what am I doing here? How did you get this car and where are you going? And I've had friends of mine who are white who looked at that situation and didn't understand it. But unfortunately, one of the realities in America is that we struggle with race. And we will never get to a point where we're comfortable if we don't listen to each other and try to understand before we condemn. So before I refer to you as an immigrant, a criminal, a prisoner, somebody who's mentally ill, I cannot forget that you are a human first. And that should be the basis of how you are treated regardless of the situation. And many people have experienced being treated less than because their humanity is not recognized first. So with that sort of grace and mercy is how we listen to each other. And it is not an attack on law enforcement if you're recognizing that somebody's experience with some American institution has been less than ideal.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, you had a comment, I believe.
Yes, sir.
I think I skipped over you, and I apologize.
No, that's fine. I'll be brief. I agree with Representative England on some things. You know, things do happen. There are a bad apple that slips through the crack. But as a 34-year law enforcement officer, you want me to tell you what I've seen? I've seen the cops that care about our community and care for people, just like he said, that have the love for people. Me, personally, have allowed immigrant from, I think it was Honduras, that was in our community that had nowhere to go, to stay in a camper until they were able to get somewhere to go. But what I have seen in our community from our law enforcement is love and appreciation for people. Yes, you do have a bad apple. As a chief, I sent one to prison for 3 years for corruption, for doing people wrong. But that don't mean every cop is a bad person, and not every ICE agent is a bad person. I know there's a lot of people, and you said you have a relative son that's doing this. Most of your law enforcement care about people. You said it, because they're out here doing it for near nothing. You know, they're working side jobs, overtime, everything to do this. So for everybody to assume or to listen to the media and think that everything that's going on is bad is incorrect. I think if the media wasn't involved as much, we would all probably have a different opinion. But not to say that everything's perfect, because it's not, but law enforcement in its whole entirety, for the most part, is good people that care. Yes, that things can happen, but I have, over my 34 years, I've even served on a committee, a joint task force with the federal government in enforcing federal laws. And it's not uncommon for law enforcement to support federal agencies in a lot of different capacities. So this is not anything new that's going to be earth-shattering, major that's going on. It's not like our local law enforcement is going to be taking on a bunch of duties or roles of the ICE agents. It's just not. So it's just going to allow the opportunity to assist when and where it's needed. Thank you.
Mr. Faulkner, I think you were next.
Yeah, I was just going to I think this part of the discussion's kind of been covered, but I wanted to say to our speakers, in particular our first gentleman spoke, I thought you spoke very eloquently. You know, no one, I certainly don't, and I don't know of anybody in the Alabama legislature that wants to have an American citizen picked up when they shouldn't be. Do not want that. And to all our speakers who talked about this, I mean, and raised this concern, I do not want that. And I don't know any of my colleagues that do either. I want this to be done. And, you know, the speaker I even asked a question about from D.C., he said he wanted that cooperation. He wanted the cooperation between law enforcement. But most of what I heard from the speakers is a fear that this is not going to be done properly. And so what I've been trying to do is look at this bill and see where is the language in here that is causing this, is causing the objection or concern. And there are provisions all throughout here that, you know, in the event of a failure of communication between jail staff and an inmate as a result of a language barrier, an interpreter may be brought in to assist. If the inmate is unable to provide documentation indicating his or her lawful status, a jail staff member shall contact the LESC to determine the inmate's lawful status in the United States. Over here, there's a provision: an inmate who is suspected to be an illegal alien shall not be detained solely because of the unavailability of after-hours contact information. An inmate identified shall not be detained on the basis of being an illegal alien unless the LESC or ICE specifically provides written instructions for detaining the inmate. So what I've been trying to do is look at the language of the bill and find out what is going to your concern. And there seems to be provisions throughout here trying to make sure that they have detained a proper person. But I'm certainly open to hear from anybody, and I appreciate the speakers being here to let us know how you feel about it. But I just would like to know the language in this bill. I don't know that it's contributing to what your concerns that were expressed are. And that's what I'm trying to find is what is the specific language in the bill that is giving you this concern. But nobody that I know of, none of my colleagues want to see people detained that should not be. And we certainly want law enforcement to do their job properly, including the ICE agents. But Alabama law enforcement in particular, from our perspective as state officials. But thank you for being here and expressing your concerns.
Last, Ms. McClammy, did you have a comment and/or question? Either one.
Comment, and I'll be brief. First of all, I want to thank you all here for coming here today and giving us your testimony. The testimony they presented here is not on social media. It's testimony they presented from their own lives. Also, I do want to thank those in law enforcement that do an awesome job in protecting us and caring for their community. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. I know in my community, I don't represent the community of Mayberry. So with that being said, we do have issues of racial profiling. That's something that we've dealt with for years. I don't know about you all's area, but that's why it's been made illegal due to the fact that individuals that look like me were racially being profiled by law enforcement. Now, I don't think we can hide that fact that it does exist. Also, I just want to say, when issues like this come up, I always have to remind myself and others of an incident that took place right here in Montgomery, Alabama, that dealt with a dear friend of mine, Greg Gunn, who was chased down, illegally hunted by a young, unprofessional killer cop on our force. This is a young man who was just walking home from around the corner. And he was chased down for whatever reason, and he was unarmed and murdered on his front door in front of his mother. And so and now that young gentleman that was the police officer for this particular case, he was then let free last year by our Attorney General while he was found guilty. So we do have to ask questions, and we do have to have you all to come down here, and I thank you for coming here today to this committee meeting, because our members need to hear both sides of these laws, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Mr. Baker here? Then we will carry his bill over. His bill's over, there's a couple. We will carry him over for a couple of weeks. Ms. Yarborough, you will be back next week and answer any questions that we have, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you there, Mr. Wadsworth. I got a short bill here. I sure will. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the lawyers are a member of the bar. The state bar is an agency of the judicial branch of government. You are licensed to practice before the Supreme Court. What this bill does is remove any doubt that the Board of Commissioners of the State of Alabama Bar is an agency of the judicial branch of state government. The whole purpose of the bill. I will be glad to ask her any questions, or I will ask for a favorable report.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? I'll answer any questions you got.
And all in favor of favorable report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill gets a favorable report.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes this meeting. We will see y'all next week. And we have, well, at least we filled up our agenda for next week, Eddie.